do you ensure your students, how do you ensure that they feel comfortable and that they have a sense of belonging with a native educator?
Okay, that's a great question. For example, I like to be friendly with my students a lot of the times, and I want to make sure that they feel comfortable with talking to me at first. And right after we've done that, then it's much easier to conduct classes and to make sure that they understand me better and they grow mm, at the good pace, to be honest, and that they believe me and they consider me as a friend at first, and then their teacher, of course.
If a student is wanting to ask you a question, and let's talk about social anxiety coming in, how would you help this student?
Great question. To be honest, in my experience, most of the time, the shyest student at first is the most talkative student down the road in the future. Yeah, so at first they're super shy. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to ask questions. Their answers are short. But further down the line, when you get to know them better, when you become friendlier with them, they trust you, they open up, and then you cannot stop them from talking. To be honest, that's my experience. So, personally, I make sure that they're comfortable in the class. So I ask them questions that are not really considered, let's say, in a learning environment. So basic questions, how was their day, and so on, to get to know
Right.
them better as a friend, friendlier, and then we can go and continue with the class. So that's my
Yeah.
experience, and that basically works almost 10 out of 10 out of times. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mr. Trystan, do you give
Mhm.
your students personal attention? As I mentioned, what if a student is sort of reluctant to head in for a group session? Are you open to, if the student has an issue of addressing a group gathering, does a student have an opportunity to at least ask you the question after the class is over, so on and so forth?
Of course, of course. Uh, every student in my group classes, in the past and now and in the future, always has a chance to ask when they don't know something, if they have some problem understanding the class. Of course, just raise your hand. Even during the class, I can stop and focus on that student directly more if that student needs that at that specific time. So, of course, I'm always here to help, and there's no problem there.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Mr. Trystan. Are there regular tests and assignments, Mr. Trystan?
Yes, of course. So I think that's a very good way in reviewing and evaluating what they've learned in previous classes. Of course, when you give them assignments and something that they need to focus without my help. So in the next lesson, then we check the assignments, how they did everything, and I think that's a the closest as you can get into teaching students personally at school. So yeah.